Welcome to the Soul Science Nutrition Podcast, where you'll discover that when it comes to your health, you're so much more powerful than you've been led to believe. And now, your host. She's a holistic nutrition and lifestyle coach, chef, author, and yogi, Christine O'Casey.
Hello, and welcome to Soul Science Nutrition. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm Christine O'Casey, and just want to take a moment to express some gratitude for all the wonderful support that I've received. Thank you so much for listening, leaving your ratings and reviews, and subscribing. And just a gentle reminder, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. You can do that right on your phone, and just so you don't miss any future episodes. They do release once a week, every Thursday. So let's dive in. I am so excited for today's show. Today's show is all about functional nutrition. Functional nutrition is a targeted, customized approach to our health challenges where we treat the whole person and go way beyond the diagnosis, looking for a root cause. Functional nutrition takes a very detailed health assessment of you as the whole person. It incorporates lab testing using functional versus conventional ranges, looking at diet, lifestyle, taking emotional health seriously, and from this we develop a personalized treatment plan. At the heart of a functional approach to our health issues is the understanding that there's an imbalance in the body, a missed opportunity, an overlooked situation going on in our food, in our lifestyle, in our thoughts and emotional body as well, that's causing inflammation, that's causing stress-related symptoms. And the idea of a functional approach is to really peel back the layers of our self-care, really peel back at the layers of how we're nourishing ourselves or how we need to be nourishing ourselves. And that's why I love this conversation today with Sarah Clark. Now, Sarah Clark is the creator of Fabulously Fertile, and her approach with her team of health practitioners employs the functional nutritional approach to working what we call preconception health. So she supports couples who have been struggling with fertility or with an infertility diagnosis. And she offers a beautiful, truly, genuinely holistic functional approach to helping women who are really struggling with this, with functional lab testing, nutrition and lifestyle changes, and emotional and mental support. Today's conversation is a beautiful opportunity to explore how important it is to get to the bottom of why we're struggling with any particular health issue. And today we'll be talking about the ability to carry a baby or conceive a baby with Sarah. This is her area of expertise and the team that she's built. What I love about today's show is even if you are not necessarily looking to conceive or this part of your life, your childbearing years are behind you or well behind you, and in my case, there's still so much value to this conversation because really it's all about connecting and understanding the other health issues that might be going on that you might not be aware of when it comes to any kind of food-related or metabolic imbalance, whether that's chronic fatigue or unwanted weight or poor, digestion. At the end of the day, this is a conversation that really ties in and validates the importance of looking at the whole picture when it comes to your food and your lifestyle. And if after listening to the show you want to go even deeper, I suggest you check out Sarah's Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, available on Apple Podcast, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, where she shares her natural fertility solutions in great detail. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. How are things in Toronto?
It's been, we're just coming out of, as we're recording this right now, we're starting to go into, phase 3. So we've been very slow to open around here. So I've worked from home and I've always done all my calls via Zoom. So there hasn't been a huge, giant shift for me. I've just continued on.
Going with the flow on Planet Zoom, the way we all need to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It works. Awesome. So I want to dive into what compelled you to do the work that you do now?
Yeah, so I had my own journey with infertility. I remember my early 20s, I was joking that I was having menopausal hot flashes. And I remember interviewing people. I was in HR at the time. I was interviewing people and I was flat going, oh, it's menopausal hot flash. Ha ha ha. Turns out that it was. So at the time I had irregular cycles. I had Back in my 20s, I had great skin. Then all of a sudden in my early 20s, I started getting acne. I had a weird fungal rash on my chest, and then I had some yeast infections. And so for that, I went on the pill. That was the first line of defense, which the Band-Aid approach didn't get to the reason why those things were there in the first place. Went on the pill, and then I had this life plan, getting married at 25, which I did. Then I had the kids at 28. Well, at 28, I was still on the pill, so went off because I was in my life plan at 28. And then went off the pill, and then I was given the diagnosis of premature ovarian failure, or premature ovarian insufficiency, as it's now called, which is the loss of function of the ovaries before the age of 40. Until the only way I'd ever have children is by using donor eggs. And I remember her grabbing the IVF brochure and saying, off you go. And I didn't even figure out those symptoms were connected. I didn't even get a second opinion, which is, I look back and I'm like, I didn't get a second opinion, but didn't do that. Went to the clinic, went on a list for a donor egg, and we were lucky enough on the first fresh transfer to have our daughter, and she's about to turn 19. So it's many years ago when you said donor eggs, and I was, telling my friends and family, people were like, I don't know what that is. Science can do some really cool stuff. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. And so then we had two embryos left over, wanted our kids close together, waited a year. And then that didn't work. Went on a list for another donor egg. Then we're lucky enough to have our son, and he's 15. And then really after that, my health took a nosedive. I remember having, after I had my daughter, I had 9 colds. Every cold went into a sinus infection. I thought it was a great idea to take antibiotics for every sinus infection. Not a great idea. I had vertigo. I had chronic bladder infections, chronic sinus infections, chronic yeast infections, seasonal allergies, dandruff, irritability, all of these, signs that my immune system was off. And I kept going. I was still functioning. I was still in the corporate world. And then I decided to take a life coaching course, wanted to bring that into the corporate environment, had my own personal wake-up call, decided I really wanted to do health and wellness coaching, took the health coaching course, IN. And then that's when I discovered I had these food sensitivities. So for me, sensitive to dairy and gluten, later corn. Then I discovered and then lo and behold, when I changed the diet, then the bladder infections, the sinus infections started to go away, yeast infections. And then found out later I had some gut infections, so streptococcus, fungal infections, addressed those, and the chronic stress. But I was 40 at this point, it was too late for me. So if you're still cycling naturally, there's things we can do. We use a functional approach, really digging deeper as to, why is it not working in the first place.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So, it's a lovely thing when we come into the health field through our own, journey, through our own path, because as we say, that's kind of the inspiration for being able to share with what you know now with people so they don't have to struggle so much. Take a shorter version to arrive at some opportunities for healing. How does it feel to kind of be able to look back on that journey now, 15, 20 years and kind of know what you know? I mean, what is it that lights you up when you founded Fabulously Fertile? What was the mission that you were on essentially?
Yeah, I literally, when I discovered this, I'm like, why doesn't everybody know this?
Exactly.
What the hell? What is going on here that, I made these dietary changes because at that point I had taken multiple antibiotics. I became allergic to all of them. I was getting hives from the antibiotics. Nothing was working. They were, telling me because I was peeing blood for the bladder infections. I thought, what am I going to do? And now, there's simple steps I can take if I feel one coming on, and they rarely do. But it's food issues that typically will trigger it for me, and also chronic stress as well. But yeah, so I started Fab Fertile because I wanted to. I didn't want other people that had been diagnosed with an infertility diagnosis like myself and didn't even get a second opinion. And there's other things going on in your body. It's not just the diagnosis. We get myopically focused on the diagnosis, and it's looking at the whole body. I want people to kind of go, oh, I have that, and dig further.
Yes, thank you. You've said in some of the things that you've written and spoken about, nothing happens to you in a vacuum. I love that, right? So whether it's infertility, whether it's, like you said, a whole myriad of symptoms, or in one major symptom, like you said, I'm just getting all these chronic bladder infections, right? Nothing happens in a vacuum. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that put you on the path to the functional approach?
Yeah, it's basically not when I basically got that diagnosis of premature ovarian failure, I didn't think these other little symptoms we're related. But when you look at the whole body and you start to, and then there's healing opportunities that are missed all the time. So for me, I was on hormonal birth control for over 10 years, which then predisposes you to food sensitivities, gut infections, and also then you can be eating this beautiful nutrient dense organic diet, but you're not able to absorb the nutrients. So that's the birth control pill. And I see that all the time. I ask people, well, why? And people are coming to me obviously for infertility. And if they've been on the pill, I'm like, well, why did you go on it? Most people say it wasn't for prevention. It was for heavy periods, light periods, PMS, things with their skin. And the first line of defense is, let's put you on the pill. So
Yes.
that's a huge flag to like dig deeper. Not a lot of us know our blood work. It's really about education. So you know your body best. And a lot of times we will give it over to the person in the white coat. We know what's best for us, and we assemble our team. We can consult with them, but they're not telling us what to do. They're part of our team. Mm-hmm. And I think that grassroots patient-driven movement to change things has to come from us. Yeah. And it's interesting. So my daughter just had an appointment with a doctor last week, and he literally was like so like when she told me how he treated her, it was disgusting. Like she's 18, and he was like condescending, and he was making her feel guilty, and was like just talking to her in this just a disgusting manner. And I'm like, I said, you don't need to take that crap. Like you don't need to have someone talking to you that way. Who does he think he is? Try to intimidate you. They are there as part of your team, and you're to say, this is how I'm feeling, and he can consult. But like, and when people, as part of our program, we have people get their blood work, and some doctors will know, I'm not going to run that blood work. I won't do a full thyroid panel. Your thyroid looks fine. Wow. So, right. To me, that's when you want to, be switching a doctor. If they're not able to give you the information that you're requesting because they're either, they feel they know best. That's an interesting, to me, a functional doctor they're a little more, because our conventional side of things is a pill for an ill. Like,
yeah. And it's not about empowering the patient, as you just said, and I hear you on the interaction between, we're learning more and more as if we need more information on this, but the relationship between a health practitioner and a patient can make or break, the healing process, because it's such an important relationship. And I love the fact that you do have a team. You have a great team at Fabulously Fertile that addresses, again, all these integrated components of what it creates to prepare the body to carry, a baby healthily, and for us to kind of be at our optimal health. Can you talk to me about your team and maybe how you, I know you have a great signature program, and just walk us through the steps there. I'd love to hear everybody's role in that.
Yeah, so I really assembled the team. In the beginning, I was like, I got to get trained in all these things. I'm like, no, I don't. Let's assemble the team and get like experts in different spaces. So basically, we take a functional approach to fertility. So I work with functional diagnostic nutrition practitioners. So they're the ones that are running the functional lab testing. So basically for our program, our couples coaching program, in the beginning, I was just coaching women. But even if it is female factor infertility, there's always things the male partner can do to optimize his health and his sperm health. So it's and infertility diagnosis itself, typically women are, they may deal differently than men. So it's like they could, and tell a few friends and family members. Typically a man won't say anything, and just he's equally in pain. So it's important for both people to give voice to what's going on. Basically, we run the tests. So we're doing food sensitivity testing. We're running the Dutch test, and that looks at your hormones using urine. We're doing stool testing. Most people that we work with, there's been sort of a parasite, a bacterial infection, a fungal infection going on. So gut infections are huge stressors. And then also the hair tissue mineral analysis testing. And that's looking, you can eat that beautiful, healthy diet, but maybe you're not absorbing those nutrients. So you can make small tweaks with food and some supplements. So we use those, the functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner will run those tests and then develop a protocol. And then I, as the health coach, fertility coach, will then coach the couple through implementing those changes. Because a lot of times we see that you'll get the testing and then, oh, great, I invested in this testing, but then rubber hits the road is the implementation of that. So being able to coach people through, to making those changes. And yeah, we do that. And then depending on where they are, if they've had a number of failed cycles, I have a therapist on the team. She's experienced infertility herself and also is expert in mindfulness, which is really important as well. And I'm also got another course that I'm just launching with a therapist / shaman, which is really cool. So that one is like the shamanic perspective. So energy and spirit, we all have those spiritual nudges. I just did an Instagram live where we were talking about your dreams. What are your dreams meaning when you're on the fertility journey? If you're dreaming, if you have a pregnancy, or if you're you see your baby in a dream, like what's the healing or the medicine you can extrapolate from the dream and think of the emotion that dream, how are you feeling? And then what healing do you need on this realm when you're in the spirit realm? So that stuff's like super cool because many people on this journey they maybe can't even see themselves, getting pregnant or having a baby. They've just lost hope and they can be in this very dark space. So we're, doing the, doing the testing, and you can, eat the best diet for you and working on those gut infections and throw out the plastics and all the environmental toxins. But the mental emotional side of things is equally as impactful as that. So we take a very holistic approach. And then we also do a blood chem review where we're looking at the blood chemistry through functional reference ranges. Those are for healthy people. Our whole thing is to educate it. The tests will tell a story, the health history, the blood chem, talking to the client, of course, and then, okay, here's the story. Here's what it is for you. And then developing a protocol, and then looking at diet changes, looking at movement, looking at sleep. Sleep is huge for people, like optimizing sleep, and then looking at stress. So being able to reduce the physical and the mental emotional stressors is the key.
There's so much emotion that goes into the particular clientele that you're working with that is really struggling with conceiving. As you said, there's a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of despair. There's a tendency to kind of focus on this diagnosis, right? I see what your team is doing is helping people kind of say, well, what else can I see? Right? Taking sort of this wider perspective of, okay, well, what's really, where can I work now? Right. And you mentioned your timeline. I think it's really important. This isn't an overnight process, but you actually know that you can make some real wonderful changes, meaningful changes in the body to stabilize their health, to optimize their health in 3 months, I think you said, right?
Yeah. So it's a 6-month couples coaching program, but in like the life cycle of the egg is 90 days. It takes the egg to renew. It takes 90 days for the egg to renew, and the life cycle of the sperm is 70 to 80 days. So in a very short period of time, you can make massive change for your egg health and your sperm health. But then the body as a whole. Like we start people off by doing the elimination diet, just taking out. And most people come to me saying, I don't have a food sensitivity, and most people we work with actually do. So it is those, taking out those inflammatory foods, and you can. I was just talking to someone yesterday and he wasn't really planning on it, but he had dropped like 27 pounds. So, and it just by making some of these changes, and it's not about starvation for him. It was just, he's a firefighter, and he got, eating he's like, I was eating at the hall with all the guys, and I was eating this food, and now I'm just eating a cleaner diet that's targeted for him.
Yeah, that makes him feel more balanced, gives him more energy, and all of a sudden his body kind of expresses in a different way, right? Yeah, giving you different feedback.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's really what this is you're, I love that you're getting folks to really pay attention to their whole body, taking care of, all aspects of their well-being. So when it comes to the emotional and the energetic piece, how important is it for women that you're working with to see themselves healed, to see themselves, as you said, having a healthy baby, having a healthy pregnancy?
Yeah, that is really key. Being able to work with people to have them visualize this working, affirmations, like from a spiritual and a mindset issue. It is to slow down. But just because you're slowing down doesn't mean you're not moving forward. So but you don't have the freaking gas pedal on. You're having to ram to the floorboards, and you're just like panicked and you're like, because it doesn't matter if they're 28 or 38, everyone's past their point of when they want to have their child. So it is, yeah, like they're very, and so it can be a lot of panic, biological clock. And then that uncertainty, that's why I developed the Step Into Your Power course with a shaman / therapist, because the uncertainty drives people like bananas. The uncertainty, the ambiguity. I don't really know. Like, I don't know if it's going to work. Yes. And no one has a crystal ball, but then it's like that real pushing energy. So that it's like, okay, I don't know what's going to work. So I'm going to just try to control like every part of this thing. A lot of times people have put joy on hold, not able to even do things that they enjoy. Like they've separated themselves from their family and friends. There's a lot of triggers. There's a lot of pain, which is like dug and suppressed. So we work to release that and get it out.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay. So dealing with the uncertainty, dealing with the despair. And you said going 100 miles an hour and always coming from this belief that things should be different. I shouldn't be here. I'm already behind, right? I failed, or my body is failing me. I mean, these are very powerful beliefs that really interfere. We just ruminate. And for women, when it comes to the health of our bodies, I mean, could you think of an even more kind of, triggering area for us? And we're supposed to be able just to have babies, and our bodies are, so there's this, not belonging and not right. I mean, and so I love the work that to help women prioritize that's a powerful place to start, because then the body can relax and then your nervous system can calm down.
So I typically will coach a type A busy professional. And so they're coming in and they're like, give me the stuff. And they're like, sometimes they're jumping through the screen, give me the supplements. And we're like, we got to work on the basics. So it is working on the diet, the sleep, like sleep is key, movement and stress, and focus on your like things that can shift the needle for your health. And it might just be like a simple thing of making sure you go to bed before 10:30.
Beautiful.
And so that's like, we work with couples for months on sleep, being able to, and like a sleep routine with having a sleep mask and using blue light blocking glasses, darkening the room, you can use magnesium oil to put on your feet to help with sleep. And there's magnesium oil that has melatonin too, if that can be helpful. But the sleep piece is key.
What's someone who doesn't meditate? Someone who's just, can't deal with the monkey mind. What are your go-tos for?
Yeah. So for that would be like, how do we incorporate mindfulness into our daily activities? Sure. So we all eat 3 times or more a day. Like, how do we do mindful chewing? I remember like years ago doing a macrobiotic retreat, and someone in there was chewing like 100 chews per 100 chews per bite of food. And that's a little extreme because it's complete liquid when you do it. But I remember at that point doing 30. So aim for 10. And and then you feel more satiated. So I used to, and I still find myself doing it, like, throwing the food down. How do I get going? And then when you're eating, to not have phones or screens, be present with the people when you are at the table, and even eating at the table. Like, I always eat, at least my dinner is always eaten at a table, not in front of a screen or at a TV. It's at a table even if I'm by myself, it's at a table. So that mindfulness we're in the hand washing era right now. We sure are. We should have been before, but we are now even more. Mindful hand washing instead of rushing off, or even like walking up and down the stairs. And I am like, I have to remind myself of this like all the time to do, and I'm by no means perfect at it at all. But because I used to literally remember in high school, like rushing down the hall. I was like rushing down the freaking hall. I don't know why I was trying to get there, where I was going or trying to get there so fast, but I was always like, I gotta do it fast. I gotta like get there fast. So how do you like be present in that moment? And for me, that really, there's a strong desire for me of always to get into nature. I'm like, how do I get outside? How do I like just be outside? Because that just like listening to the birds and not being outside. Like, I go for walks. I don't take my phone. Like, it's
beautiful.
That's a lot of my clients. They're walking in nature and they got the earbuds in, and or I see people out there like walking by themselves and then talking on the phone. I'm like, what? Like, you're not even present. You're not even present where you are.
Okay.
So I make sure I do that, and I suggest that for my clients too. So it's just incorporating. It's not about you sitting on some mountaintop and meditating all day long. It's like, how do you incorporate those things into your daily routine? And then if you can't sit, you can do the yoga, like more of a yoga side of things. And for the fertility yoga is part of, I have a fertility yoga therapist on my team or practitioner. And it's like it's like the slow yoga though. You're like, it's hatha, it's yin yoga, it's restorative yoga, the kind that you're holding a pose for like 4 minutes and you may just want to run out the room because it's so slow. That is the point. And to like open up some of those emotions, stuff like that. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, we're numbing ourselves. We don't want to feel it. But when we feel it, that's when we can, it's because we're prolonging the suffering by keep pushing it down. When we get it out, and sometimes we don't even know it's been there. It releases it and we can start to heal.
Yes, exactly. And when it's released, we were able to release those blockages and the body starts to come into that natural state of balance. I can understand how your clients are experiencing relief in all these other issues, whether that be excess weight or an autoimmune issue or a digestive health, any sort of chronic health conditions start to resolve through the work of working with food, the nutritional piece, the sleep piece, certainly the stress and the mind emotional piece. And that essentially is the same exact path which creates the optimal conditions for fertility, for a healthy baby, for a healthy pregnancy. It's so beautiful because, again, it really is getting at the root cause and seeing the body and all the surrounding health issues as interconnected, which is so freeing and so much more empowering than being stuck on diagnosis, being stuck with one size fits all, treatment options or things that we have been told are the only options when it comes to creating the health outcome that we are desiring.
Yeah. So it's, we've helped people that get pregnant naturally when they've been told donor eggs are for you. Yeah. So it's just, releasing those stressors. So we're looking at the stressors, basically the physical stressors, be it a food sensitivity. So we're having people do the elimination diet and then having them, depending on, we may also recommend AIP diet, so autoimmune protocol diet. There's some research in the Journal of American Medicine, the efficacy of that diet for Hashimoto's and for IBD. So if there's an autoimmune disease, for sure AIP, and even POF, or premature ovarian failure, or premature ovarian insufficiency, or low AMH, diminished ovarian reserve, potentially doing an AIP diet. So really reducing that inflammation from the food.
Right. So we're bringing down inflammation and, inflammation that we're, resulting from the foods that we're eating or the foods that we need to be eating more of, right? The emotional factor and the chronic stress response that's happening, triggering our inflammatory response on that level. And you mentioned sleep a lot. So talk to me about sleep. What are your best tips for optimizing sleep?
So many times it's like a tweak to like, okay, let's stop your liquids before 6 or 7. Or maybe there's a blood sugar imbalance going on that, so you can have a healthy fat before you go to bed. So maybe an apple with some almond butter to keep your blood sugar stable, nice. Or some nuts. And then also a lot of times we're looking at screens and stuff before bed. So basically at sunset, putting on, so there's blue light blocking glasses. You can have those on. So, or put your screens on night mode, because it helps with your melatonin production. So when we're exposed to this blue and green light, that impacts your melatonin production, and which then impacts your cycles, your implantation of the egg. All the melatonin is key. A lot of people will supplement with it. We see like supplementing, again, that's a Band-Aid approach, not to supplement. Let's see, why is it low? And it could be, are there gut infections? We're seeing that too. Sometimes if your sleep is off and the gut bugs are more active at night. So
Fascinating.
yeah. So then addressing those parasites, bacterial infections, fungal infections, that's really key. First line of defense is to take the phone out of the room. Don't have it be the first thing you look at and the last thing you look at before bed. You're on someone else's agenda. And someone in the fertility thing, I typically will recommend coming off social media for a period of time and just see how you feel. Because there's a lot of triggers, definitely with the phone. And then even for the phone, putting it on flight mode because all the EMFs that we're exposed to is not good for...
The sleep is really, you correct some of like your sleep hygiene and the habits around sleep, and you get at both the biology, right? As you said, your hormone production in your circadian rhythm comes into, it's able to come into balance, and you certainly get into better behaviors, right? Because if you're well rested, it's a lot easier to go up and make a healthy breakfast, and it's a lot easier to, not fly off the handle and just have more resilience in general in your day to day. So, talk about root cause. Right there, right? We certainly know, when you eat better, you feel better, but when you sleep better, oh my gosh, I think for so many clients who are struggling with any kind of food related or lifestyle related issue, people know right away, if you're not sleeping, it just throws everything off, right? So how do we expect our bodies to function optimally?
And I think we know that. So it's like if you're up, and sometimes, we don't get home from, or now most of us are working at home, but we're not stopping work until 7 or 8. And then we want to have our dinner, and then we want to have our quiet time, and then we want to relax, and then it's 1 a.m. So a lot of time I have to back everyone's day up. And so you can do, and it is looking at some of the things that you need to have, and they're potentially going to bed late because of those, they need the wind down time, and the wind down time is TV. And then that goes into show after show. And so, it is. And it is kind of backing up that whole day. And if you can get to the 10:30, but if you're at 1, you don't want to say, I'm going to go to bed at 10:30. You want to then go back to 12:30 and 12. So that kind of thing, it does take a little bit of time. And also if you're snoring too, looking at sleep studies, there's an app called Snore Lab. You can listen to you and your partner if you snore, and it'll give you some data on that. And then there's a sleep cycle app where you can listen to, how deep is the sleep that you are getting, and it'll track it for you. And then also, if you are snoring, as long as you're not have sinus issues, you can do mouth taping. So you tape the mouth taping, and then because if you are a mouth breather, that's impacting all your whole body. So that's interesting too, to dig into the snoring piece and mouth breathing.
Oh my God. So many, again, getting to the root cause, working with, our common habits. And sometimes we're not even aware. I love the way that in your system, in your approach to infertility, preconception health, you're focused on educating the patient, right? And again, we were just talking a little while ago, that seems to have been lost in the practitioner-patient relationship is, giving you the information that's relevant so that you can actually implement it. And then, of course, the support that you give them, which I definitely appreciate, because sometimes we go to a doctor, functional or conventional, and they say, okay, here, make these 12 things happen. And it's like deer in the headlights, right?
Yeah.
So I can see that when you work with your patients, it is very step by step. You hold their hand. You say, okay, you're here. You can just make this little adjustment and modification here, and then you'll still feel better and you'll still get some results, right? So it is that step by step process.
Yeah, and still empowering them. They have the information, they know their body best, and really being able to, it'll get to the point when you'll know why you have the headache. You'll know why you're being a pain in the ass is because you didn't take the time to, prioritize your sleep or actually get that alone time that is key for you. You'll start to know why, instead of just, yelling at your spouse or feeling super frustrated or dealing with some of these health issues. You'll just get to really know your own body, which is super empowering.
Yeah. And that's really kind of where we take off, right? Because that's ultimately, the more in tune we are, and the more we're able to listen, those cues, those signals, then we're a lot more conscious. And if we're a lot more conscious, we're able to make informed decisions and do things that feel right and let go of things that we know are making us, that are off track. So it's really key. You talk about the healing opportunities that might have been missed. So we've talked about gut health and infections. chronic inflammation. You talk a lot about blood sugar too. Insulin resistance is a huge epidemic. A lot of people don't even know that they have blood sugar imbalance. That's, at the root cause of a lot of their hormonal issues, weight issues you mentioned, So talk to me about blood sugar. Like, what are some things that you see as red flags?
First of all, if your sleep is disrupted, then that can dysregulate your blood sugar the entire next day. So that's a red flag. If you've got your blood sugar tested, if it is high, then there's things you can do as far as diet. Like you might want to. We start people off by doing a food diary, and It's really, this is what you eat, but how did you feel? Did you feel like, were you shaky? Did you feel hangry? Do you feel like your mood or you're bouncing all over the place? And it might be, you might be eating too many carbs. So like a lower carb thing can be helpful for people. So it really, like the food diary is the first key. And then you can do a blood sugar monitor too, to see, what's happening after you're eating as far as your blood sugar, because that can then impact your sex hormones too.
Yeah, it's true. So again, the food, is important, but how we're able to recognize the effects of our food choices on our body, how they affect our mood, our energy, our digestion, our sleep, right? All of it, all of that information, again, as you said, educating people on how to listen to their bodies and how to understand how everything's connected, and that's the basis of functional nutrition. You do a wonderful job of educating people on is the limitations of generalizations, right? Generalized recommendations. Oh, it said it on Google. Oh, I read something, what can we do? That's better.
Yeah, like for the basic supplements, we'd recommend for fertility would be making sure that you have a good prenatal. We want to make sure it's a methylated prenatal in case you have the MTHFR gene.
Yes.
There's 60% of us have that. So make sure it's methylated. We like Seeking Health or Thorn. You want to have a good probiotic. We like Megaspore, but that's a practitioner brand. There's Thrive. You can get this the same for consumers. Also magnesium, 85% of us are deficient in magnesium. Our soil doesn't give us the magnesium we need anymore. So magnesium would be a basic one. Omega supplement, and then a CoQ10. So that's good for egg health, sperm health. So yeah, those are like the basic ones.
Okay.
So most people that come to me are taking some of those. And also a vitamin D, because a lot of us are low in vitamin D. But with that, you want to make sure you get your vitamin D tested. We regularly see it in like the single digits or teens. It has to be in 60 or 80. So, and then you'd work with your physician to get that monitored. The other targeted ones, many people are taking like heaps of supplements, spending a lot of money on it. They don't really know why they're taking it. They're taking Vitex, they're taking Maca, they're taking ashwagandha, they're taking, all these different supplements. And ours is, we use the testing, develop the protocol. There's the supplements. It's for a targeted amount of time, typically 3 to 4 months. And then you start to improve your gut health, address infections, eradicate whatever is there, and then start to repopulate it. So, because I had for years, I'd go out with bags of supplements, spending all this money. I didn't know why I was taking them, all these herbs. Who knows what those are for? Because there could be dyes, fillers, chemicals, heavy metals in some of those. Be supplementing, if your sleep is off, let's supplement with melatonin. Well, then your melatonin goes sky high. The self-prescribing thing is just not recommended to really. That's why we do the testing and then develop the protocol, especially in the fertility space. And I guess just in internet in general, that there's so many different, you should take this, you should take that. And most people come with like a laundry list. And a lot of them have fillers, they have dyes, they have the top allergens such as soy, gluten, dairy, and they're taking that. And we find there's, most people we work with, a high percentage have non-celiac gluten sensitivity, so very sensitive to gluten. And then they're taking wheatgrass. And even though people say wheatgrass is gluten-free, if you have a high sensitivity to gluten, wheatgrass is not recommended. They're doing wheatgrass shots every day. So those kind of things we see just all the time, like a lot of mistakes done around generalized supplements that could be harming your fertility.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, there's a limit, right? And again, we have to view it in the whole context of all the other habits that we're using, our sleep, what we're eating, what we're thinking and all of it, because otherwise the supplements I found become that, pill for every ill,
Yeah.
it's kind of just, you're swapping out, conventional medicine for
alpaca,
herb. Yeah. Thank you. So, what is a myth? What's a common myth about the work that you do that you want to debunk?
I think with the functional approach, sometimes people do think it's just supplements. They might not realize that it is addressing all of those stressors. So it's like, oh, give me your protocol. What's the protocol? I want the protocol now. Like, you cannot out supplement a bad diet. You can't out supplement poor sleep. You can't out supplement like a toxic workplace, bad relationship, working 50 hours plus a week. All of that has to be addressed. So it is, we look at the whole body. So I still think it is a growing set of people and health practitioners that instead of prescribing medication, they're moving to a root cause approach and looking to prevent, and then doing that personalized medicine approach. It's still in the infancy, and other conventional doctors, like if I go and say that I'm gluten-free for whatever reason, and you just get those blank stares and like you're crazy and that's quackery. I literally, my son has some mood issues, so found a psychiatrist that actually gave a long speech on gluten. And I almost was like, oh, damn. I almost like cried when he was giving the speech about how inflammatory it is to the brain and all this sort of stuff. Because I've been talking to him about this for years. And he's just like, oh, Mom, please. But so just to find people that speak the same language as you, like practitioners, to build your team with like that kind of stuff, like-minded stuff, listen to podcasts like this, the way you hear people talking about stuff that, because otherwise you start to, you start to self-doubt and not even know that you're on the right path. So it's like the doctor doesn't know your body better than you. And to really be like a strong advocate for yourself. And I think huge. Educate and empower yourself is key.
That's really key. Yeah. Thank you. And yes, it is a growing movement, I think. And the more that more and more people find out that they have other options when it comes to infertility, any range of symptoms that you've just presented, show up when we have any kind of hormonal imbalance, and just to understand that they're more, we can dive deeper and have a broader tool bag to deal with them, I think is huge. But to your point about the functional approach, I will share that I've had a number of clients who have worked with functional approach, and unfortunately, the emphasis has not been as well-rounded as it should be. It's been very, very much about the supplements. And not enough as what your team does, which is a whole person approach. So just kudos to you. Really, that's all I want to distinguish is you guys, at Fabulously Fertile really get it. But you guys are really doing the mindset stuff. You're really doing the energetic, the emotion, the gut healing, the lab testing, the implementation support, which makes all the difference. So bravo.
Thank you. Yeah, it was literally, it's all like we use ourselves as like the guinea pigs of like, wait, I did all these things. And then, oh no, I still had chronic stress because I hadn't set boundaries. I didn't slow down. I didn't listen to the signs. Like all synchronicities. I didn't listen to my gut when I knew I was going to do something. And I had to ask 20 people, what do you think I should do? Like all those things. It's like, and then,
Beautiful.
You hopefully then lead by example is always what I hopefully try to do.
Yes, I get that. I definitely get that. Are there any resources that have really helped you in your journey?
I love the book by Dr. Ben Lynch. He was on my podcast, Get Pregnant Naturally. Yeah. And then Dr. Kelly Brogan, she's really cool with a mind of your own. From a mood side of things, I love the Amen Clinic. So Dr. Daniel Amen. Yes. His book is right here, The End of Mental Illness. The one that I love the most is Dr. Mark Hyman. He is the guy.
Yeah, he is the guy.
He is his podcast, The Doctor's Pharmacy with a FAR pharmacy.
Those are some great resources, and I'll put those in the show notes. But yeah, for sure, Dr. Mark Hyman was, kind of what set me on the path to understanding functional nutrition and root cause and all of it. So, and he makes it really easy and enjoyable,
Yeah,
and
easy.
and he gives you so much wonderful information. And again, what I love is that your passion, I can see from the work that you do, is to really educate and empower, women in their bodies. And that is such beautiful work. So thank you so much. Is there anything that I should have asked you maybe, but didn't, like you want to talk about an upcoming program that you're excited about, or anything else?
Yeah, so we've got our Step Into Your Power program. That's the one where I'm with the therapist and the shaman, really taking that
Yes.
Shamanic approach to fertility and kind of the spiritual nudges and that, the signs are all around us. But really, yeah, like my passion on all of this is my couples coaching program. I'm really helping. I just, because for me, as I dig deeper, you just discover more things all the time with a functional approach. I just want people to be like, okay, here's my infertility diagnosis, but there's other things going on in my body. I want people to go, oh, wow, really? There's things I can do here, and really be empowered. And it's not just, oh, by the way, I have an autoimmune disease. That's a huge healing clue. Oh, by the way, I've been on birth control for 10 years. Oh, by the way, I have acne that I've had for years. Like all these healing opportunities that are missed. I'd recommend people to check out my podcast, Get Pregnant Naturally.
Yes.
And it's on iTunes and Spotify. It's just cool to speak to people that think differently.
It's a really beautiful language when we're in the business of educating, empowering, and as you said, uncovering our potential to heal, uncovering the body's potential to heal, right? And isn't that just a completely different paradigm shift, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So missed opportunities to heal, physical and emotional stressors that have been overlooked. This is your work at Fabulously Fertile. So thank you so much, Sarah. All your information will be on in the show notes. And our listeners can find you at fabfertile.com. So thank you so much for being here. It's been a gift to have you on the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.